Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Moving on to mechanical injuries. And Generally speaking, the assessment, classification, and documentation of injury are key elements of the forensic medicine. And the role of forensic pathologist or the forensic physician or the forensic scientist is to ensure that the medical relevance of the findings from a crime scene can be easily understood and can be easily understood by a court of law. And As the title displays, this lecture is about mechanical injuries. And generally speaking, the injuries are of five different types, and we have just enough room to play with this a little bit. The first being the mechanical injuries, which is the topic of this discussion. And in the coming lectures, we are going to discuss the firearm injury, and after that, we will have uh, thermal injuries, electrical injuries, and chemical injuries. So there are about five different types of injuries, but the topic of this discussion is mechanical injuries. And inshallah, this topic will be covered in two lectures. And another important thing that I want you to remember is that words to describe injury or harm are used non-specifically by laypersons. But since in legal settings, the use of a particular word may have a specific meaning that can influence the nature of charge and penalties or sentence related to an offense. So it's important to know the exact definitions since forensic is the legal medicine. Forensic actually means the court of law. So in next slide, we are going to see different definitions that are high yield for Viva and MCQs. The first definition we have is of injury. Injury is illegal harm to any person in proper BMR. And what's BMR? The first thing that may arise in your mind is basal metabolic rate. But it's not basal metabolic rate. Proper BMR is a mnemonic. Mnemonic to help you remember four aspects or four different words in the definition of injury. Proper here denotes property. B is for body. M is for mind. And R is for reputation. So injury is illegal harm to any person in property, body, mind, or reputation. In the proper definition, the word property comes after the body, mind, and reputation. So the mnemonic should be BMR proper, but it doesn't sound so much sophisticated. Therefore, I mentioned proper BMR. And types, what were the different types of injuries? It never hurts to recall them. We just went through them in the previous slide. The first one mechanical, second firearm, third electrical, fourth chemical, and the fifth one thermal injuries. I think I messed up the sequence a little bit, but it doesn't matter anyway. Wound. What's wound? Wound is disruption of any tissue of the body. Wound is disruption of any tissue of the body. So there are two main types of wounds. We have open wounds and closed wounds. Open wounds in which the edges of the wound are wide open, and its best example is incision, surgical incision. And there are other examples also, but that will be, and we will go through them in the coming slides. And the best example of closed wound is a bruise or a contusion. Next definition is of hurt. It's a relatively low yield definition compared to the first two, but we'll go through it anyway. Hurt is bodily pain, disease, or infirmity caused to any person without death of the person. So in simpler terms, hurt is a harm to any person without causing death of that person. Infirmity is a word that means another term for infirmity is bodily weakness. So bodily pain, disease, or infirmity caused to any person without death of that person is called hurt. And injury is also known as trauma, and the study of injuries is called traumatology. And I hope if you went through the text of forensic medicine in different books, the unit containing the things, unit containing stuff related to mechanical, chemical, electrical injuries, that unit is named in most of the books as traumatology. The study of injuries is called traumatology. In the next slide, we will focus our discussion to the topic of this lecture, i.e. types of mechanical injuries. So let's see what we have got there. Actually, we have two major groups of mechanical injuries. Mechanical injuries caused by blunt trauma and the mechanical injuries caused by sharp trauma. What is sharp force or sharp trauma? Um, Sharp trauma is due to weapon which has a sharp edge. For example, an axe has a sharp edge. A chopper. What's a chopper? जिसको हम टोका कहते हैं. And a knife is an example of sharp force. Another interesting example is of surgical instruments, which are used to take surgical incisions. So, and the subtypes in the sharp force mechanical injuries include incisions. Incisions are also known as slashes, stab wounds, and chop wounds. And what is a blunt force? Blunt force in which the edge of the weapon is not sharp. For example, a wicket or a police club or a cane or a baseball bat, etc. Whatever that comes to your mind, it does not have a sharp edge. So the subtypes of blunt force mechanical injuries include bruises, abrasions, and lacerations. If you can't remember each of these, then I suggest you don't try to, because in the next slide we are going to see pictures and we'll go through detail, then it won't be a headache for you anymore. The first thing, in the coming slide we are going to discuss each of these in detail, and the first among them that will be discussed will be the bruise. Bruises are also known as contusions. In many books they are mentioned as contusions. And bruises are a type of mechanical injuries in which there is a discoloration of the surface tissue, discoloration of the skin due to subcutaneous damage of blood vessels. It is the discoloration of skin caused by leakage of blood from damaged blood vessels, and these damaged blood vessels are often small diameter vessels, such as venules or arterioles, into the underlying tissue. And what do we call bruises in our local or national language? is हम नील कहते हैं. And let's go to the next slide and see what we have there about bruises. And this next slide might seem very busy, but if you see, the bullet points are just four, and the remaining slide is covered by just pictures. So if you follow with me and not go through yourself, not go by yourself through this slide, inshallah we are going to make it fun. So here's a picture of surface discoloration. Here's a picture of surface discoloration, and we see that the surface tissue is intact, and this discoloration is due to subcutaneous damage. Bruising, generally speaking, is most commonly seen in the skin. Bruising is most commonly seen in the skin, as is evident by these pictures, but bruising can also occur in internal organs and muscles, which may not be evident until surgical intervention or post-mortem is performed. And this concept is what the second bullet point is referring to, where bruising can be internal or external. So if the bruising is external, it will be visible on the surface, but if it's internal, i.e., it can occur in muscles and viscera, but it won't be visible until a surgical procedure is performed and the body is opened up or a post-mortem study is performed. Another important concept is that of migration of bruises. Bruises evolve and can migrate. The effects of gravity and anatomical tissue planes are two of the factors that may determine how the position of a bruise might change. Thus, the presence of bruise in one place does not always imply that the blunt impact was applied at that particular site. And this concept is what this third bullet point referring to, that bruises can be ectopic, i.e., they can be at sites other than the original site of trauma. An interesting example is that of a black eye. A black eye, here's a picture of black eye. As you see that the area near the eye is blackened, and it is not that the site of trauma was actually this. Actually, this black eye is caused by the trauma to the forehead, but this trauma to the forehead causes bruising of the area under the eye, which is called black eye, and this is the ectopicity of the bruises. The last concept is about the last concept on this slide, and not about the bruises, because there is another slide about the bruises also. The last concept is about the factors modifying the appearance. Vascularity. Greater the vascularity, greater will be the size of bruise. Why? Because more the vascularity, more will be the blood vessels in the subcutaneous tissue. So as a result of trauma, more blood vessels will get damaged, and greater the damage of the blood vessels, more blood will get leakened out of the confines of blood vessels. So obviously there will be more extensive bruising. Force, greater the force of the impact, obviously more blood vessels will get damaged, more blood gets leaked out, more the bruising. Age, old people tend to have less elastic tissue, less elasticity, less pliability in their blood vessels. So as a result of trauma, their blood vessels are already prone and susceptible to damage. So they get extensive bruising. Sex, females are prone to bruising. Why is that? Because estrogen is known to increase estrogen is known to increase skin vascularity. And there is greater skin vascularity, as we previously discussed. At this point, greater the skin vascularity, more blood vessels will get ruptured or damaged as a result of blunt trauma. So obviously, more will be the bruising. Area, interesting. Area is quite an interesting point because we know that the loose tissues or the sites which are unopposed. For example, the abdominal wall. Abdominal wall never gets bruised. Abdominal wall can never get bruised. Another interesting example is of scalp. In the scalp, the tissue is so firmly adherent to the skull that if there is any blunt trauma, the trauma is directly transferred to the bone, and the subcutaneous does not get damaged because there is no space for the subcutaneous tissue to get damaged, because the scalp is so firmly adherent to the skull. And it is important or high yield to note that the scalp of young children or adult, the scalp of newborns bruise easily. Another interesting point is diseases. What diseases will affect the bruising? Obviously, diseases that affect the hemostasis. And if the hemostasis is defective as a result of trauma to the blood vessels, the hemostasis will not occur as it should. So obviously, there will be more leakage of blood from the confines of blood vessels and more discoloration of the surface skin. So extensor will be the bruising. The two important diseases that you need to remember is that liver disease and renal disease. How does liver disease? We know that liver creates coagulation factors. So if there are no coagulation factors due to hepatic dysfunction, the hemostasis will be effective. Hemostasis will be defective. So defective the hemostasis, more blood gets leaked out, extensor will be the bruising. Similarly, if there is renal dysfunction causes the accumulation of urea in the body, and the accumulation of urea is known as uremia. And uremia is an important pathological feature that causes platelet dysfunction. So if there is uremia due to renal dysfunction, and this uremia will cause platelet dysfunction, this platelet dysfunction will affect the hemostasis, and hemostasis, if defective, will cause more blood to get leaked out of the blood vessels, so extensor will be the bruising. In the next slide that we are going to go through is about the medico-legal importance and the aging of the bruising. As we know that the bruise changes its color from red to blue and then gets eventually healed. So the next slide is quite busy, but if you go through me and try not to follow the whole stuff on your own, inshallah, we are going to make it fun for you. Age and medico-legal importance of the bruise. First, we will go to the age as the title displays, and the table for the age is this. And then we will go to the medico-legal importance. How does the aging, how can we know the age of the bruise? Obviously, when the bruise is fresh, I believe all of you have encountered bruises, especially those who have learned to ride a bicycle in their childhood, especially those must have encountered lots of bruises. So initially the bruise is red. Why is the bruise is red? Because the RBC get leaked out and RBCs have HB. And oxy-HB, i.e. hemoglobin bound to oxygen, is red in color. So initially, due to HB, the color of the fresh bruise is red. And after a few hours to 3 days, the color gets changed to blue. And this blue color is due to deoxy-HB. And it is the same deoxy-HB which causes the blue, which provides blue tinge to the skin of a cyanosed person. So the blue color of the bruises is due to deoxy-HB. Similarly, after a few more days, the bruise gets down to bluish black or brown. And this bluish black to brown discoloration of the bruise is due to hemosiderin formation. And this hemosiderin gets broken down into a green compound called hematoidin. And this point, that hematoidin is formed at about 5 to 6 days and it is green in color. It is a high yield KMU past paper MCQ, and I have seen it appear more than once in the past paper MCQs of 10 doctors. And this hematoidin this eventually gets degraded into yellow compound called bilirubin, and this bilirubin will get eventually absorbed and degraded, and the normal tissue continuity uh, will restart. So one more time through this table, fresh bruise is red due to HB, and after a few hours to 3 days, it will convert into blue color due to deoxy-HB, and deoxy-HB will get broken down into hemosiderin, and hemosiderin at about 5 to 6 days of the bruise will turn green, and this greenish discoloration is due to a compound called hematoidin, and this is a past paper MCQ, and this hematoidin will get degraded into yellow compound called bilirubin. And bilirubin will eventually get absorbed at about 2 weeks, and normal tissue continuity will restart. And how are you going to learn this table? It's easy. Cross the first point, cross the last point. Why is that? Because we all know, all of us have encountered bruises. The fresh bruise is red, so you need not to remember it. And eventually everything gets reabsorbed. Eventually everything gets healed. So by 2 weeks, I don't think any one of you would have encountered a bruise that would have lasted more than 2 weeks unless you had some disease such as uremia or liver dysfunction. So by 2 weeks, everything gets down to normal. All you need to remember is just these 4 points: from deoxy-HB to hemosiderin to hematoidin to bilirubin. That's all from this table. Another thing that we are going to discuss in this slide is that of medico-legal importance. Bruises can tell us the cause of injury. For example, if the injury is caused by trauma from some weapon, so the imprint of that weapon on the surface of the body can tell us the cause of the injury. An interesting example is that of grip marks from fingernails of the sailors that are visible in these pictures, and they show that the bruises are caused by the grip from the fingernails, which are quite visible on the upper inner arm of this victim. Another interesting example of the cause of injury is that of a shoe imprint, which is visible on the forehead of this assailant. Shoe print bruise following stamping injury to the face. It may be possible to match the footwear pattern and assist in the identification of the shoe owner. Another important point about the medical legal importance is that of intent of the assailant. For example, if the bruising is around the region of the neck, if the bruising is near the region of the neck, this shows that the assailant intended to kill that person, or the intent was homicidal. And if the bruising is around thighs or genitalia and inner aspects of legs, then this shows that the intent of the assailant was sexual offense. Degree of violence, obviously greater the extensive the bruising, obviously this will show that the degree of violence was more. Time of injury sustenance, how can we know that how many days have passed since the occurrence of bruise? This table will help us to determine that. Similarly, antemortem versus postmortem, this table will help us to determine that. Why is that? Because antemortem bruise goes through all these color changes, and postmortem bruise does not go through all these color changes. Why is that? Because these color changes from oxy-HB to deoxy-HB to hemosiderin, which is brown or black, to green color hematoidin to yellow color bilirubin, is all these steps are enzymatic reactions, and the enzymes get degraded in the dead body. So in post-mortem bruising, there won't be any color changes. Similarly, this can tell us about bruising. Studying the bruising can help us differentiate between true or false bruise. What's a true bruise? True bruise is that is caused by blunt trauma, and false bruise is by application of some local irritant on the skin surface. Local irritants such as nut juice, similarly calotropis, and juice from the root of lumbago. False bruising is caused by the application of these substances, these local agents on the skin surface. This will cause local discoloration of the skin, and this may resemble like a bruise to a lay person, but actually it won't be. And this will be determined by a careful study by a forensic pathologist. Why and the false bruises are created, and they are created for false charges, for accusing a person of a crime they haven't committed. And the last point is that of a tramline bruise. What's a tramline bruise? Tramline bruise is a quite an interesting concept. A tramline bruise is a special bruise in which there is a central sparing and two parallel bruises. As seen in this picture, there is a central sparing and there are two parallel bruises. सेंट्रल स्पेनिंग आर्टरी के दरमियान में ब्रूज नहीं है, दरमियान में स्किन सही है. And how does this tramline bruise occur? Tramline bruises are caused by impact from cylindrical object, for example, a police baton or a club. And tramline bruises are a creation of parallel bruises with central sparing by impact from a cylindrical object. What's a tramline? Tramline और रेलवे ट्रैक ऑलमोस्ट एक ही तरह की चीज है. और ये आप देखें कि ये एक लाइन है और ये यहाँ से निकली सी हुई है और ये नीचे से भी इस तरह फैली सी हुई है, लेकिन दरमियान में ये जगह पतली है. और इसी तरह इस साइड में भी ये ऊपर और नीचे हल्की सी वाइड है और दरमियान में ये जगह जो है ये पतली सी है. तो ये सेंट्रल स्पेयरिंग की तरह इसकी सेंट्रल स्पेयरिंग की तरह ये लगता है, इसलिए इसको ट्रैम लाइन कहते हैं और इसी वजह से इसी भी ट्रैम लाइन कहते हैं. और ये बता रहा है कि किस तरह होता है. दिस इज ए सिलेंड्रिकल ऑब्जेक्ट which impacts the skin, and when it strikes the skin, it stretches the skin at this and this sides, while the central portion does not get much affected. So this, after removal of the baton, you see that there are two parallel bruises with central sparing, and this concept is called tramline bruising.